Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Masashi Niwano. I am the Festival Director of CAAMFest. On behalf of the CAAM staff, I welcome you to this very special screening I'm so excited about tonight. We have two fabulous films that you all just saw, and we have the filmmakers with us tonight. Before I bring them up with a very special moderator, I have a few notes. Programs like CAAMFest 2021 and CAAM's year-round programs are made possible by the community of supporters around the world. Help us bring compelling and diverse Asian American stories to life. Donate or join as a CAAM member at CAAM's website, caammedia.org. For a limited time, new members can save 15% on our friend and supporter memberships using the promo code Celebrate Stories. I'd like to thank our co-presenters. These are organizations who do such amazing work within the community and also help us spread the word about these two wonderful films that you just saw. First off, API Cutesy, which stands for the Asian Pacific Islander Queer Women and Transgender Community, and QuackMap, Queer Women of Color Media Arts Project. Hello, Madeline, if you're watching. And the Queer Paulettes. All three of these organizations have been helping us throughout for many years now as co-presenters, so we want to thank them so much. This is a live Q&A. That means underneath the player, you have two things you can do. First off, you can participate in our audience award. If you like See You Then and think it should win our Best Narrative Award, you can fill out the audience award ballot there. Secondly, we have our filmmakers here, as I just mentioned. So start asking questions in the question box, and later in the Q&A, we will get to them. So we look forward to hearing your feedback. Let's start the Q&A. I'd like to welcome to the screen a friend of CAAM and the fabulous host of the Commonwealth Club Michelle Meow Show, the one and only Michelle Meow. Welcome.
Masashi, thank you so much, and thank you to CAAMFest for having me tonight, and thank you all for joining us. I'm so excited to be with you on this Friday evening. As Masashi mentioned, we have the filmmakers of both films with us for the Q&A. We have director of F1-0100, Emery Chow Johnson, and also Mari Walker and Kristen Uno, who are the writers, director, producer of See You Then. Welcome, everyone. So excited to be in company with you all. Loved both films. I feel like both films just touched on, the core experiences, our inner thoughts, our reactions to a heteronormative world, and just exactly like what happens when we have certain conversations that can be awkward, or even just with ourselves and how we want to express ourselves. And so I'd love for each and every one of you to talk about, what was the inspiration behind the film, the inspiration or the impetus. We'll begin with Mari.
The impetus for the film was initially a desperation to tell a story, just any story as a film. It's so hard to make films in general for everybody, and much less anybody who's trans or biracial. And every script that I had written was really big, so we worked on making it smaller and smaller to this very small chamber piece between these two characters. And then I had just the amazing fortune to be living with Kristen at the time, and I sort of coerced her into doing it. And a lot of it was our really frank discussions about womanhood and femininity. What does it mean to be a woman? What does it mean to be a mother? And all those conversations that we had began to inform the story, and then it just grew from there.
Kristen?
Yeah, I would completely agree with what Mari said. We were both kind of at a place in our lives where we were looking back on where we thought we would be and where we currently were, and the expectations that we had set for ourselves and that society had set for us as women, in terms of, where we should be in our careers, and, are you going to have kids and a family, and all of these questions that are always floating around about you as a female in society, and what that meant, for, someone like me who's cisgender, and someone, like Mari who's trans, and, how you negotiate those desires to have both a career and a family, and how that relates back to your identity, and your acceptance in society. So I think we were really interested to explore that on a personal, private level, and something that was very intimate and true, and that felt close to life.
And Emery.
Sure, thank you. For me, the film kind of started when I first saw the documentary subject's animation work, and through their animation work, I really kind of felt seen in terms of how someone uses art to process their circumstances and predicaments they're in when they're facing oppressive, I guess, systemic forces. At the same time, I was also interested in looking at how, in looking at the history of Asians in America, a lot of these exclusionary laws that the community has faced, they've often had international students as the exceptions to these laws, just kind of also revisiting this history of international students in the US and kind of our relationship to them.
Both of the films also have their, unique way of making the film, right? See You Then is a conversation-based drama, and then F1-0100 has so many textures and layers to it between sound and the visual art. And so if you could each talk a little bit about choosing the format that you did or going the way that you did to tell this story. We'll go back to Mari.
Awesome. I really wanted to embrace formalism with this film, and I really wanted to tell a story that almost feels like it could have been plucked out of like the 1940s, sort of the David Lean brief encounter period, or even My Dinner with Andre in the 80s, and really give that space to characters that we normally don't see within those spaces. And we just felt like that was really important and a way of sort of making it distinct, hopefully, and unique amongst, I think, a lot of independent film that's coming out right now. But yeah, it was really just a great process of sort of evolving that all the way from the script all the way through post.
Kristen, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I would also say that one of the things that was very important to Mari was how the film was shot in terms of the technical aspect. We shot on the Sony Venice, we shot large format, and we really had a focus on faces and emotionality. I think one of the things that we wanted to keep away from was making it feel like a play, which I think you can often get that feeling in a conversational piece where there's just two characters and they're having a conversation. So we really wanted to highlight the emotionality and interior life of these characters through the camera work and through the way that we photographed it.
And Emery.
For this film, I was really interested in fusing both the art and the video aspect, considering how much art is a form of self-expression and sometimes the only form of expression for trans artists or for H in the short film. I really wanted to go towards this film with a multimedia, mixed media approach, and really seeing how to fuse the animation, the artist's work with the artist's life.
And we have some questions from our audience. Thank you so much for submitting them. And so keep doing that. And we still got a few minutes left. There's a question from Lori for Emery. Emery, your film is artistically wonderful. Can you talk about what inspires your filmmaking?
Thanks so much for the question. I think in the documentary film, what kind of inspires me is the documentary subjects. And I feel like documentary is a very special medium where you can combine your lens and the subject's lens to find a way to best communicate their story. And I think every approach to a documentary can shift depending on what the person's story and lived experience is like.
And we have a question from James for Mari. Mari, I love your cast. Can you talk about your experience with them?
Oh, thank you so much. We have such an amazing cast. I had seen Pooya in a short many years ago when I had my own short in some film festivals back in 2017. And her performance always just stuck in my mind. And as we were going through the search to find her, or to find our Kris, she just always floated back into my mind. And so I wrote a letter to her and sort of poured my heart out and told her how much I felt like she could contribute to the project. And the moment that we sat down and discussed the film, I was getting ready. I had all these notes, and we got on Skype. This is how long ago this was. And she just was like, hold on, before you say anything, like, let me just lay out everything I feel about this film. And she just laid out all the themes, the character beats, the emotionality of the story. And I burst into tears because I realized that I had found somebody who really just truly understood the role. And Lynn, we found through casting, she was our first person who came in, and funny enough, where we auditioned was where she shot part of her own film, her directorial debut, I Will Make You Mine. And so she came in with just this amazing confidence and love and support and heart, and it just made me feel such at ease at a process of auditioning that I feel so awkward about and uncomfortable, because I think it's so performative, and she really immediately put me at ease. And I knew even then that she would be the right person for the role, because there are a few people who do that in life, and that's very special.
And we got time for one more question from our audience, and this is from Stella, and it can be for Mari or Kristen. The choice to make the film about two characters was bold. Did you start off with this premise, or did you slowly focus on just two actors, or did you have other smaller periphery roles?
Yeah, I mean, we always started off with these two characters in the relationship, and then we sort of built off the periphery characters built upon their story and their evening together, and sort of how these periphery characters could tease out elements and character traits from both Naomi and Kris that we thought would be interesting and informative. But it was really always about that core relationship, and I think that we were both very interested and excited to explore their history together over the course of this evening.
And Mari, did you want to add anything to that? All right. Well, I have my last question. I mean, gosh, I could spend hours talking about both your films, by the way, but this has been incredible. It's been a great Friday evening. The last question is really, these films speak so much for us as LGBTQIA+ people, but also the fact that we are telling stories or lived experiences of AAPI people. And so if you could just quickly, each of you talk about, the importance of your films in telling our diverse stories, that would be great. We'll start with Emery.
Sure, in the context of F1-0100, telling a story from Malaysia and looking at voices in the from Malaysia and international students from Malaysia, a lot of folks here in the US might not realize what privilege we have to be AAPI and be able to express ourselves in whatever form we want to in terms of gender. Especially now, it's more so in some states than others in the United States, but just kind of being able to raise that global awareness, because we talk about this idea of global citizenship, but we see for trans folks, that idea of global citizenship can be a bit stickier and much more untidy.
Mari?
I think over the course of my transitioning, I think I came to really embrace my AAPI heritage a lot more. I think being biracial, I was able to exist in a very privileged space for an extremely long time. And I think having sort of forcing myself to transition sort of shook me out of that. And I think I sort of rediscovered a newfound need and desire to see more faces like my own on screen. And I think that has become a huge mission for me. And I think especially, I certainly hope that See You Then's just the start of that.
And Kristen?
Yeah, I would absolutely agree. Like Mari, I grew up biracial. We're both Japanese Americans, fourth generation. And it's always been very interesting the way that people perceive you and then the way that you perceive yourself and how you reconcile that. I think a lot of people look at me and they don't think that I'm Asian. And there's a certain privilege that goes with that. But then there's also, a lot of emotional baggage that comes with that. This disconnection from my heritage and from my culture and from my people that, has been reinforced through, years of racism and the internment and all of that. And so I've been very excited later in life to reconnect with that heritage and that culture and to highlight it in art and to give voices to people who don't traditionally have voices in film. And I think that's very important. And I was very excited to do that and See You Then. And I was very excited to tell a story about two women, about one who's Asian American, about one who's Iranian American and trans. And I think that the more that we can show the complexity of these characters and their humanity, the more that people will come to see everybody based on who they are, and to understand that we're all multidimensional, and that we aren't just stereotypes or tropes, but that we all have our complexities.
Well, thank you all for your incredible films. We want to see more. And so before we say our final goodbyes, where can we follow you? Emery?
You can follow me on Instagram at Emery Chow Johnson, and you can follow my work at chowjohnson.com.
Mari?
My personal Instagram is Mari W. Walker, and the Instagram for the film is See You Then Film, which is also its Facebook and Twitter.
And Kristen?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram at Kristen Uno, and you can follow the film at See You Then Film. We also have a website, so definitely keep in touch. We're showing at lots of festivals throughout the year, and excited to continue, sharing this film with audiences.
Well, thank you all for joining us this evening, and thank you to CAAMFest. We'll see you next time.